My name is Kirk Hansen. This is Shubham. We are both, I guess you could say we're both the two people that drive pivotal use cases the most inside of Splunk. I guess that's probably a fair statement. Mm-hmm. My role is an IT market specialist. What that means is that inside of Splunk, I focus on IT use cases. So I don't have to play with security, even though I still probably do. But the point is, I get to focus on those IT use cases. So that means anything IT related, I'm supposed to know. Underline maybe the supposed to. Go ahead.
And hey guys, morning. I'm Shubham Jain. I am from product side engineering. I am the one who basically focuses on how to get data into Splunk from different technologies. In this case, it's PCF. I'm a developer on PCF Nozzle, who's basically making sure and trying to maintain the product, and it's an open source product, so it's with the community's help, I try and maintain this particular Splunk Nozzle for PCF product.
Sorry guys, this thing seems to be auto-advancing. Someone next door is probably messing with us. All right, so what we're gonna do today is we're gonna go through two pieces. We're gonna go through several pieces. It's the PCF introduction, so mostly this is the nozzle, the architecture, the design, on the nozzle side, and then we're going to talk about what is ITSI, just for a very, very brief 3-slide thing. Then I'm going to walk through some screenshots. We have the system live. We use Pivotal's partner website, or their partner portal. What that really does mean is that sometimes it goes down for upgrade without us knowing. So we've made sure that's up, so I'll bring that up for Q&A more than I'll live walk through it. The Wi-Fi really hasn't been behaving historically this week. And then I'll go into kind of what during that demo, that walkthrough, I'll go through the module introduction. And the module will be released next week after I get some sleep. I couldn't get the docs done by today, so I'm sorry, but it'll be on our website next week. And if in the meantime you need it or want it, really you're eager, then just email me and I'll send you the bits. So it's not a big deal. And then we'll go through what we call happiness with PCF, ITSI, and then some roadmap considerations for both the module and the nozzle. Sound good? I think both of us really don't like to just sit and talk. So if you have a question, just raise your hand. I might repeat the question and yell it out. If there's some slide that we're gonna get to in the later part of the deck or the conversation that's natural around it, I might ask you to hold it, or I'll come back to it. Does that sound good?
And you might get some swags if you ask or raise your hand for questions or anything else.
Yeah, it's not like last year. Last year I was throwing a bunch of buttercups, but they were out. You know, little stuffed animals, but they were out. I waited too long to order, so sorry about that. But I do have some cool, junk. All right. What? The alcohol? 5:30. So I made a promise I didn't keep, apparently, so here we go. All right. That's all you. That's your section.
All right, so this says, Splunk and Pivotal introduction, and I'm assuming all of you guys know Splunk, so that's given. In terms of Pivotal introduction, how many guys are using Pivotal Cloud Foundry in their environment today?
How many people, out of curiosity, in the room again, different poll, are using ITSI? Okay, good. Okay,
and I'll ask another question. How many of you are using actually the Splunk Nozzle for PCF? That's good to see. Nice, thank you.
Why are you so curious about that? What'd you do, write it?
Well, apparently I did.
You can just say yes.
Yes. So just a quick overview on Pivotal Cloud Foundry. What is Pivotal Cloud Foundry, right? We know, and as you all are using it, it's famous, right? Pivotal Cloud Foundry is the proven solution built on top of Cloud Foundry platform for companies seeking software-led digital transformation, giving you the developer productivity, which is like, don't think about dependencies, middleware, or runtime components. The platform does it for you. Operator efficiency, designed for zero downtime deployments, run on every major and public cloud. Comprehensive security, as it says, reduce risk in app portfolio. It's app deployed in a consistent, repeatable way, which makes it easy to audit and control what's running on the platform at any given time. Basically protect systems from attackers using Pivotal's 3R of security, that is repair, repay, and rotate. And high availability. Rely on built-in high availability to keep customer-facing systems online under even most challenging circumstances. The power of PCF Platform. So this is just showing the power in terms of comparing the traditional IT versus IaaS, infrastructure as a service, and the platform. In traditional IT, it was, as you see, everything, it's managed by us in terms of from layer 1 to layer 7, networking, storage, servers, everything we used to manage. Infrastructure as a service, they took away a few layers, but still, from the OS side, the middleware, runtime, and application, it was our headache to maintain that. With PCF as a platform, you don't have to worry about any of these layers. All you care about is your applications and your data, and the rest is taken care of by the platform. So that's the beauty of PCF. Now we get to Splunk Nozzle for PCF, basically an integration of Pivotal and Splunk to ingest your PCF data into Splunk. So before we get into the architecture and the design, let's go over a little bit on what is Nozzle. So Nozzle is Pivotal's terminology, basically a dedicated component for reading and processing data that streams from their Firehose log aggregator. So it is a component that monitors the Firehose for specified events and metrics and streams this data to external services. In this case, it's Splunk. The diagram, the PCF log aggregator architecture basically shows the architecture of the log aggregator, including some Cloud Foundry components that it interacts with. I'll go over the few components like Metron, Doppler, traffic controller, Firehose. So Metron, as you see on the left side, I can see it actually here. As you see on the left side, it's basically Metron agents are co-located with sources. They collect the logs and forward them to Doppler servers. That's the next step within the log aggregator architecture. Doppler. Dopplers gather logs from the Metron agents, store them in temporary buffers, and forward them to the traffic controller or to any third-party syslog drains. Traffic controller. Traffic controller handles clients' requests for logs. It gathers and collates messages from all Doppler servers and provides external API and message translation as needed for legacy APIs as well. And traffic controller also exposes the Firehose. And when we come to the Firehose basically is the endpoint, is the WebSocket endpoint that streams all these data, all this event data coming from Cloud Foundry deployment to external services. The data stream includes logs, HTTP events, and container metrics from all of the applications running within the platform, and metrics from all the Cloud Foundry system components. And yeah, we all know, right, the difference between logs and metrics. The Firehose carries both logs and metrics, which differs basically in terms of metrics basically is reporting a measurement from a VM or a status of VM as its timestamp time. It can route to a monitoring platform to trigger alerts and for triaging purposes. And logs are just events in Splunk. In terms of the integration of Pivotal and Splunk, these are the Splunk built-in internal components, which basically, in this diagram, we show, left side again, the Firehose, basically, which is that's where the nozzle makes the connection, and then that's how the Firehose streams all the data coming out of Pivotal Cloud Foundry via Nozzle to Splunk. And Nozzle has many built-in components in terms of like Nozzle has in-memory queue buffers to increase the reliability of the data and has parallel clients in terms of go routines to scale out multiple ingestion channels to HEC or Splunk HTTP event collector, which is basically our endpoint where we stream everything to send it to Splunk. So multiple Go routines for concurrency, basically. The Splunk HEC clients, this is again an Splunk built-in HEC client, which sits within the nozzle, which runs concurrently as well, consuming events from the queue, and to enrich PCF events by attaching even the metadata fields. For scaling out, add as many HECs or HEC, and place a load balancer in front if needed. So Pivotal Cloud Foundry integration. The Splunk Firehose Nozzle, again, for PCF, as I mentioned already, it collects data or events from PCF log aggregator endpoint and streams them to Splunk's endpoint, which is Splunk's HTTP event collector. It is high performance and reliability with nozzles in-memory queue buffer, which we just went over, and parallel clients, which is in terms of Go routines or the HEC workers. It's easy to scale. It's a simple deployment. I will go over the deployment, installation and deployment in the later section as well. Some of the cool features or the out-of-the-box features for Splunk Nozzle for PCF is it's set up with out-of-the-box data parsing and enrichment for various PCF event types. We basically map the event types directly with the source type, so it makes it easy in Splunk to look for particular event types. A reliable way of sending your PCF data to Splunk, because we are using HTTP event collector. It's one of the secure way, again, of ingesting your PCF data into Splunk, providing the user configured SSL certificates. And about scalability, as per the need, depends on the volume we have in the PCF platform. It's scalable, and it's easy to scale out or scale in, as per the need. And so this is the deployment architecture, just to cover how it looks in terms of when we are actually deploying the nozzle, excuse me, sorry, within the PCF platform, and when we, the architecture basically of the deployment.
Oops.
So,
the old logo. Just skip the slide.
So PCF, Splunk Nozzle for PCF, basically it's an application which gets deployed within the PCF environment. It runs as any other Cloud Foundry applications. PCF Nozzle sits within the PCF platform as an application. It connects to WebSocket API. And as I mentioned about scalability, so it depends on the need and the data volume we have within PCF platform. We can scale out Nozzle from 1 to n, depends on the need. And in terms of deployment architecture, I have seen cases where we have load balancer in front of Splunk. That's how the preferred way for few customers are. Another way is also just have a heavy forwarders instead of load balancer, and then you have indexers, or you can also have indexers only, like just the indexer cluster to send your data to Splunk.
Click. Just talk about it.
About installation and deployment. So the Splunk Nozzle for PCF is basically an open source product. We try and maintain it. It's hosted on GitHub. It's also hosted on PivNet, which is Pivotal Network. And Pivotal Network has another deployment wrapper, which they call Tile, which could be used to deploy Nozzle within the PCF platform as well, if you guys are using PCF or Pivotal Ops Manager. So since this Nozzle is available as a tile on Pivotal Network, all you have to do is go to the Pivotal Network, download the tile, import it in Pivotal's Ops Manager. This is how it looks once you import it. So if you see on the left, there's an import button on the left. Just import the tile on this Ops Manager. You'll have the PCF or the Splunk Firehose Nozzle for PCF here. And then once you click on this, basically the nozzle, it's going to ask you for a bunch of configuration in order to know from which Pivotal or PCF environment you want to stream your data from.
So there's a video series on this too. We recorded it. It's you have to go look for Google. I can send you the link, but it's basically Google like Kirk Hansen and then do PCF, and you'll find it. Not Google it, but go to YouTube and find it. I think we put 5 parts into this thing, and the intent is really just to try to give you an understanding of soup to nuts. It will show off the old app in this series. I wrote an app last year that was essentially the precursor to this module. So it'll show that off in screenshots. I'll redo the videos, but the reality is the grunt work in this is really sort of how to get this deployed if you've never done it. Or just talk to your PCF guy, because I'm pretty sure they're not going to give you access to Ops Manager unless, I mean, maybe they're like you and really nice, but I don't think that's going to happen.
No, thanks for pointing that out. It's one of the great ways actually to get yourself, like quick start way to get started in terms of how easy it is to just install, deploy, and get you guys running and stream your data from PCF to Splunk. In terms of configuration, am I on the same screen? Yeah. So I just asked you a bunch of few basic configuration in terms of what is your Splunk's endpoint, what is your token, which index you want to send your data to.
You can use the spacebar now.
And we recently upgraded the Splunk Nozzle for PCF from using the old authentication mechanism, which was using the API username and password, and we moved from that to using client ID and client secret. And it has a bunch of different reasons why we did that. There are a bunch of, it uses underneath open source libraries, for example, UAA, and there were a bunch of changes and recommendations happened in those libraries, because of which we moved away from that authentication mechanism and started using client ID and secret. And it comes with many advanced configuration options, so you don't have to go to CF-CLI or Cloud Foundry CLI to modify configuration or in terms of resource configuration or anything to make changes. We just give you that option right from within the tile in terms of you want to scale out the nozzle, there's a configuration parameter, you want to change the memory, it depends on your need in terms of the buffer size, how many events you can store in the buffer, and etc. As you see, these are all the different advanced configuration option ships out of the box with the tile. So hopefully this, again, gave you a little bit overview or the refresh in terms of what is PCF and what is Splunk Nozzle for PCF, how it works, the architecture, and how easy it is to deploy as well. What do you, Kirk?
All right, so let's get to the boring, good part. So I wanted to make this really brief, so I'm going to do that. For those of you that have ITSI, this is going to be a boring 3 or 4 slides, but then they'll get into the fun, at least, I think. So I'm going to go ahead and really try to give you an understanding of why ITSI was created. It was another ES-like experience where our customers were saying, you guys have all these things in different silos inside of Splunk. We need one place to be able to monitor my infrastructure, my services and such. So that our customers, as you guys are, you dragged us, you asked us nicely, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, about 4.5 years ago, to make this product. It's designed to get rid of your guesswork, to make you more proactive, and to eliminate that unproductive nature. Combined with things like VictorOps, combined with Phantom especially, we find that this is where message is really starting to resonate with our customers because we feel like we finally have that platform. Really, the mission statement was based around this, right? We have the concept of KPIs. KPIs are key performance indicators. For those of you that are Splunkers, they're just searches. They're efficient searches. I'm going to underline efficient because we do believe that they're more efficient. We turn them into REST calls. They generate data in the form of summary indexes that allow us to have an up or down state. So for those of you familiar with Nagios, maybe? Anyone? Good. Any stateful thing that tells us, like SolarWinds, anything like that, right? That's what we're doing. We're monitoring that service and we're stating in that summary index what color it is, what is its risk score, and how does that associate or destroy things in my environment like online shopping. Mobile banking is one that I've worked closely with a customer on. We've got them really being able to understand what infrastructure is causing mobile banking to have a hiccup, what containerized services that they have, what's the impact on the environment, and so on. So that's what ITSI was created to do. We do have predictive in it, but The event storm is really where I find it resonates with most of my customers. Yeah, prediction is great, but you've got to get there. It's some ML-based predictive analysis, and you got to have the right data type anyway, and I'm not discounting it. What I'm trying to say is that reduction of our noise, that event storm reduction, is really where most of our customers come to us and ask us to help them because they just can't simply deal with the volume of alerts. And that theory or that concept of that event dragging is really we tried to articulate that in this slide. And this is where we talked about maturity curve earlier this morning with a customer. And the intent really is to try to get you from over here, which is that reactive, that'd be your existing line. Well, you don't even really start calculating MTTR until usually the middle of an event storm because it's not really calculated as an outage or a disruption of service. We're trying to move that left. That's where we start getting into using Splunk Core, but also using ITSI event analytics with KPI driven. And then MTTR real reduction, we can start getting in with predictive analytics, maybe the start of it, but really ML-based alerting. And then negative MTTR is where we start really predicting that score. We've got some pretty cool use cases out there around it. Just one more slide, I promise. This is the intent of ITSI, the vision, is to be able to, at the top, we've got ITSI, that's the discovery or the recognition of the problem. The collaboration is through our, either VictorOps, you could pick another like solution, but that's the vision there in terms of getting the incident logged and documented. And then the ability for us to remediate. We had, anyone go to Boss of the Knock this year? Oh, thank you, because I'm a captain of that, so I'm an owner of the system, so I'm glad we got some. We actually had a phantom use case in there this year. Did you guys get to it? Okay, so there was a phantom use case. It was the scooter one, and I don't know if you remember that use case line or that line of thinking. There was one in there that had you go to phantom and actually execute a real playbook. We came up with that Saturday, believe it or not, so yay us. We were really proud of that one. We're going to start to see more playbooks developed in the industry and by us. And then again, that reflect and learn, that's really that incident post-mortem type look. So let's unpack this sucker and determine what's in it. I got to give a little bit of background. This whole thing started when I had a customer, that same financial services customer. They were going to try to be here today, but they've had some issues internally, and he also had some family issues. He couldn't be here. So that customer asked me to do what they could, what I could as their SE back then when I was a sales engineer, to build an application for them or help them build an application to get some awareness around Pivotal. They had the data coming in through our old nozzle, our first release of it. Our alpha release might be another way to put it. It was before Shubham got involved and re-architected it to go through the HTTP event collector. And so that's where this whole thing started. I made a promise, and my biggest problem in life is if I make a promise, it doesn't matter how long it takes me, I'll get it done. So the promise was to take that application that I made last year and then turn it into some containerized way of using ITSI. So that's what I'm going to walk you through. Started with I didn't really start with glass tables. I always start with the structure. There are 2 glass tables contained in this on CF architecture. This is really a glass table for those that you don't know. They're just high-level diagrams. You can see this looks very much like the diagram that we got. In fact, we stole it from Pivotal. Shh, don't tell them. We have their permission. I'm trying to make a joke. Come on, man. It's Thursday. Thanks for the courtesy laugh. All right. All right. Oh, okay. They have no idea we're doing this. So yeah. So these dots that you'll see here are all yellow because, well, remember we're using the partner environment. So there's not a whole lot I can do. I can't go break a partner environment on Pivotal's side to show red. But you're going to get some metrics that are based around it for the architecture. And most of these are real time. I had some batch going like console and metrics. We have to redo those, so forgive the fact that they're gray. But the intent is to try to give these more of a live picture. You're looking at the alpha release, by the way, of this content pack. So I'm hoping that there are people that are going to come away from this, download it, install it, and tell me what the heck I did wrong. And we'll iterate on it. You guys all know what a content pack is? Shit, maybe I should have introduced that. A content pack is available now on our docs site. And it is a restore job for ITSI. It is a partial backup. In the future releases of ITSI, we will have more of a WYSIWYG functionality that allows you to drop things in. But the intent of a content pack is to get you 90, 80, I would rather 90% of the way there. We have ones for virtualization. We have ones for Splunk on Splunk. We've got more coming, and we've even got content team identified to be hired in the future to start giving us more of this stuff. And I just bit off another one that I have to go create now for AWS. I don't even know how I'm going to get that done, because that's 10 times the architecture. So the intent is to give you, a quick start. You had a question? Okay. So this is just one piece of it, right? This glass table. Then the other one's focused more on the logregator. We have some more work to do on the logregator side, and you'll see that in subsequent screenshots. That's just calling it out. We have to figure out how we can get more metrics on, say, Dopplers and the unique measurement of that Doppler as a Doppler, not as the entire thing of a Doppler, right? So that's, Shubham and I have a lot of arguing to do at the bar to figure out how you guys, that's actually real. We actually go to the bar and then do this.
But the idea was basically on the CFR.
Huh? Who funds it? Oh, no, trust me, Splunk funds it. It's on the 7th floor. The bar is just at the company, so.
So yeah, I was saying that, we went down the path of CF architecture and logregator architecture in terms of giving you an high-level overview in terms of how each of these components performing in that specific steps or layered architecture. So you have top-to-bottom view of to measure or monitor your performance and see how each of these components are performing. And he'll go over that later.
Yeah, and the intent too is to give you an overall aggregate health score of that logregator, which is what you'll see in the service tree. And again, this is alpha. We intend to get this out to customers, have us tell them what we're doing wrong, and then or right, and then bolster on that. So, Service Analyzer. This is just the view for how to look inside of ITSI of like different tree view. We base this on the architecture. The metrics collector has some work to do as well as the console, but we felt this was a great start, and then you can get down to the details on each as I'll show you. But these are all based on best practice searching. It's not like these searches are very complex. Let me just be honest. Those KPIs are very, very straightforward. The data that comes out of the nozzle is already formatted in such a way that it makes it easier to search. You don't have to sit there and fart through source types. It's mostly there's a field that's going to tell you some state related to this service. So the service analyzer is broken out by foundation. We actually, in the config of each of those foundations, have injected on when we install the tile, we'll inject the name of the foundation. We found that this was the most requested way to break this data up. So if you feel different, tell us, because I'd be happy to try to figure out how we can break this up. But an entity is like an object for us. Why did we call it an entity? It's a new industry term. We didn't want it to be a CI. CI has a bad name, and you can't call it an asset because we've, as an industry, destroyed that term too. So we came up with entity. An entity is just something, it could be a network device, it could be a conglomeration, anything. So for us, this is how is that entity behaving? Foundation 1 is causing us the issue. So I've got critical on my number of registered messages sent, and then maybe demo 1 is the one that's causing that in this case, right? The idea is to be able to pinpoint what foundation is having an issue. A service deep dive, this is the next level of granularity. What we tried to do was also break this up with best practice. These are designed to be swim lanes. If you don't have ITSI, just to give you a sort of how is this screen used, the same financial customer that uses this actually has whittled down their on-call paging and their ability or their sheer number of people by simply actually getting everyone on the call, figuring out by this screen what the problem is. And so in this case, it would be maybe the router that was actually causing the issue. So maybe we want to peel off certain people on the team. But the intent is really just to try to give you an idea. There's also the ability to compare to like last week, last month, some comparative analysis on the fly that's just quick and snappy and designed to get you some understanding of how this thing is failing. I gave a service deep dive as well inside of this, more the next level of granularity, but there's also swim lanes that have a clear picture. There's the ability to compare, like I said. There's also swim lane overlays, as you can see, so we can get each foundation represented on this same chart. And the ability, again, just to understand where am I hiccuping, what metric is causing my system to come down. It's just a holistic lens. It's really the intent here. Episode review. This is another component. This is what I meant by event storm. This is the view that you would use to determine if what is broken. I have metrics being generated, so what basically happens is all those metrics in ITSI generate into a summary index. That's what I was talking about, the state change. What we're doing is we're calling those notable events based on that summary index, and we're turning it into an aggregate view. So where this power would come in is you might take that aggregation policy that I created for this, and you might couple it with other data. So you might couple it with whatever that other data might be. You might have a specific application coming in out of PCF that might have a forwarder on it that gives you more data on that granular level. So you might want to compare it to this. Or you might want to alert off it. And then, so the intent is to try to give some events into this, relate them to the proper service so that you can triage it. That is also where you might have remediation built in. So inside of that notable event aggregation policy is where you link the Phantoms playbook or the VictorOps alerting or whatever. You guys all aware what alert action? Like an alert action when you say that's all those little actions are inside the NEAP, that's it, right?
You have a question.
Oh, question. Okay. Wait, you mean I made a slide that's intuitive? Are you kidding? No. Oh, yeah, I didn't think so. NEAP, yeah. Yeah, we like our acronyms, don't we? Yeah. And I swore I'd never say NEAP, and look at me, I'm doing it. So the intent really is to send to Phantom, like I said, but the intent is to be, this is the screen where action is taken. Because there's an action button, I am not suggesting, and we are not suggesting as a product team, that this thing is designed to be a manual. You should automate this as best you can, and that automation comes with the policy creation, but there is still the manual ability to send to Phantom, to remediate those actions to be able to get, well, to remediation as quick as possible. The benefits, these all have come from multiple different customers that are using the nozzle today. Some are using the content pack in its early stage, but most are using the data because the content pack really hadn't been out. Basically before Pivotal, no elastic scaling, and this is really the Pivotal side, and I'm trying to paint a picture as to why someone might use Pivotal, although there's some in the audience that could tell us better than others. Well, because we just had a conversation when you were drinking your beer that's a Coke. All right, beer that's a Coke, that's pretty good, huh? All right, so we got, development time is taking too long. You got a lot of legacy development systems that this just streamlines that. If there's any concept of like a DevOps organization or a CI/CD, ongoing continual integration or improvement development, then of course, then Pivotal comes to mind. Development costs too high, of course, 2 siloed departments, and then there's no way to have insight past 5 minutes. So this is a common complaint that we find from most of our customers that have Pivotal. This is actually one of the biggest things that the CIO of this same company told me 2 years ago. I have no way to look at historical trends. So that was one of the reasons that, if you think back to that deep dive screenshot where you compare to last month, last week, it's very important to them and to other customers because they can understand the impact, but not only the impact, is this something that's reoccurring? If every Thursday at 5 o'clock, when Kirk logs on and starts doing something, is he causing an impact to the system? It's possible, but it's good to know that. Yeah. Why PCF? Elastically scale, right? The business had made the decision. A lot of the times we come into it. The business made the decision to move to Pivotal. Splunk, as you'll see, is the natural choice for them because it's standardized. But as far as why, increased operator efficiency, the high availability architecture as Shubham showed, and, well, it's popular. So Splunk and PCF, naturally, before we had our alpha of the nozzle, this is like 2.5 years ago, we found there was a lot of demand for it. There's a lot of unknowns to the way that you monitor Pivotal without a Splunk-like solution. And so you already used it for monitoring. This is very common. I already used Splunk for monitoring. By the way, this does not, if you don't have ITSI, you can still get away with making some of that data, right? I am gonna update the app. I'm getting a lot of requests to update the app so that we have some baseline intro for customers that don't have ITSI. So I will get that done. My deadline is by Thanksgiving. So I will get that done and rewritten so that there's a little bit more data in that. It's a little more useful. We will use this to help achieve our 4 nines. I've got an organization inside of this financial company. They're essentially a development platform team, and they are designed and need to have those 4 nines. So it's a big deal. And the future platform development, and we're also seeing that too, right? And I'm not sure if this is happening for every you, but PCF is not something you can just turn on overnight for legacy development teams especially. So as new projects come up or as old projects get converted into new write or a rewrite, we start seeing a lot more expansion of Pivotal as it goes on. And the app and the content pack play a pivotal point in this. I've got 3 specific customers that come to mind that are saying that without this, they feel like they can't monitor effectively. So just a screenshot that seems to be not there. How did we miss that one? Of all the edits that we found, and we missed that one. Oh, I remember why. I made it a build. Sorry. So the main goal is a bottom-up supportable process, not only inclusive of that infrastructure, right, but the business services themselves. So this is just a content pack designed to say what services I'm forming. Those services that would be business services would be above the tree you saw. Those are going to be specific for most environments, therefore I don't think there's any way I could include that in the content pack. But it still gets you majority of the way there, and if it serves any purpose at all, even 50%, then I would call it a win. That single source of truth for both, but it's that business services, that app services approach, and then the infrastructure approach. They want the whole thing in one view. So that's the real reason, not to mention I made a promise to a customer. May have taken me a while, but I got it done. Around the content pack, and the fact that content packs are now a thing kind of just made it this natural time for us to release this. So, yep. Yeah, it'll be there next week. There's content packs already out, so if you have ITSI and you want a content pack to say monitor Splunk, that content pack is ready. That's out there. There's going to be an AWS one. I wouldn't count on that till maybe January if I'm lucky. But we also have content team, like people that are going to be hired to generate content for us, both on the Phantom side and both on the content side for ITSI going forward, so that we won't have to have some guy in the field, me, writing something in his spare time, right? I get bored. So roadmap and future plans. Why don't you go ahead and talk to the couple?
Sure. So in terms of roadmap and future map, it's talking about like where we are heading with this particular integration, right? What's next? What's coming out? In terms of the upgrades, based on the PCF platform and their components upgrade, there will be a major upgrade coming to Splunk Nozzle for PCF coming December. Again, because of the dependencies on PCF components, they have few changes in their components, so we have to upgrade it. It's going to be upgraded to they call it Firehose Nozzle API v2. It's going to add support for PAS, Pivotal Services, or the PaaS platforms, 2.8. We're going to have a bunch of bug fixes and performance improvements and updates as well to the nozzle. And as Kirk was mentioning, based on the feedback we get after this alpha release of this content pack, there will be enhancements to this PCF module for ITSI based on, sure.
Are you ever going to make the nozzle, he's going to kill me for saying this, are you ever going to make the nozzle spit out metrics instead of log?
It does. It just doesn't currently hits it to the metrics endpoint.
Get in our metrics. Yeah. See, he just gave me. So it's a common ask, and we are exploring it. We're going to start exploring it with one customer in particular. Because the data that you see, has anyone ever used the nozzle and seen it? Good. Okay, so at least so there's context, right? So you see those things. It's index equals PCF or whatever, and it says source type equals, and then there's a field that says if it's up or down. I mean, this should be a metric, right? And then there should be metric attributes. And the benefit of a metric, even though that search is dead simple, I mean, if you open up this thing, you're going to be like, Kirk didn't do anything. Well, please don't say that. But the searches aren't that hard. I mean, they're not meant to be hard because the data is very, there are metric data that just happens to be in our event stream format. So it is logical and possible, but we have to explore what that means and how that affects the roadmap. So it is on our radar. He's really going to punch me for bringing this up. So. Oh yeah,
yes,
we're not going anywhere. Yeah.
And I'll just add one more point actually in terms of highlights. We did add a feature, again, based on the requests we were getting from customers in terms of index routing. For people who don't know about index routing, it's something where Currently, from the configuration of the PCF nozzle or Splunk nozzle for PCF, it asks you for one index, which basically it sends all of the data from PCF to that one index. But there's a feature we added to the nozzle in previous release, which is index routing, where it allows you to send your application's data to different indexes, and it's controlled within your application. So if you have your applications running within PCF Platform, all you have to do is, in the application's manifest, just specify the specific index you want to send that particular application's data to, and it overrides the default index, and it sends your application's data to that particular index.
That works. I know that works.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
It's good to,
Thank
always
you.
good to hear that. There'll be bug fixes and performance updates, as he said. There's also going to be enhancements. I expect the next piece, this enhancements to ITSI, the module itself, I expect hopefully a lot. And I'm going to try to CI/CD this snot out of this at some point, depending on how much I'm getting in. In other words, just try to iterate on this, maybe small updates, so that anyone's wondering why these content packs are on docs. Is anyone wondering? So the answer was that because they can't be on Splunk Bakes because they're apps. We actually got approval for that. But if they were apps, you'd have to request on cloud to have them installed. This is content. We should not have a ticket have to be created for our cloud customers to just install content. That is not in line with what Tully is saying on our whole DNA is about these days, right? So it should not be prohibitive for our cloud customers. This is pure content, right?
Oh, I didn't know that. Thanks.
You're welcome. I don't know.
All right.
I was one of the ones fighting for it to be on the App Store, but I get it. But yeah. So you shouldn't clap for me, is all I'm saying. There are others that fought for it, but once. So that's kind of the overview, and that's it. If you've got questions, we're around. Go ahead.
Feature-wise, I don't know that you have it now. It'd be great, but ability to filter out by app, for instance, because we'll go through some works we'll right? We'll just rush our app here.
Yeah.
Just one service.
Double our log.
Like exponential. So it would be awesome just to have this. We need to shut this down. Like right now,
I second
that
that.
button. So
Quality of service, you get, I got one app that's 3 terabytes every day.
So you mean the filtering the apps which you're not interested in?
don't forward it to that here. Just drop
It's something which we have. It's not in the roadmap right now, but we have it in the discussion, which will come out in the later versions after this major upgrade, which I just went over with the V2 API. We're going to have the data filtering capability within the nozzle, so you can control that before you send your data to Splunk.
6 months, a year, 2 years?
5 days. He's fast. 5-6 days max.
Yeah, but it's quality, right? We gotta
Yep.
Do you have AirPods? Yeah. What'd you do with the other AirPods? You stole it? Give me that.
Oh.
Oh, shit. Sorry. Question. Yeah.
So, in PCF system, so the question.
Yep.
Major RGC PCF platform, as we talked about. Major push was Pivotal Kubernetes, yes.
Okay.
Are you guys planning, have you explored the things changes architecture?
Sorry, I didn't.
PKS.
Oh, PKS. So again, Pivotal Kubernetes Services, we have another open source, we call these connectors. We have another open source connector which is called Splunk Connect for Kubernetes. That's specifically for Kubernetes. We're going to add the PKS support right in the next release, which should be out within a month.
Great.
So, yeah.
Next question, concourse. There will be more and more emphasis to analysis of build metrics and concourse itself. Because that, have you explored that? Have you?
Concourse CI?
Concourse, which is a build engine for PCF. In order to deploy your application to PCF, you need to build it first. If you're using PCF for your application platform, then you are using Concourse to build it from source code. So these are not operationally, well, it is kind of operational use case. I was actually at the conference, I was just talking to a guy from Wells Fargo, So listen, I inherited the farm.
Was that him?
So you have a one guy who manages all concourses for your organization. He's a shepherd. He's like, how do I get visibility into this? So that's a great use case because as we get more and more into cloud native and speed of delivery, there's going to be more and more questions about am I getting performance-wise and how do I fuel my CI/CD pipeline performance-wise?
No.
So that might be a good use case.
That's.
So you have not considered it yet.
So the thing is, I mean, it's important. I understand that, but we rely on PCF's centralized logging component in order for us to ingest the data into Splunk. So whatever is being collected or gathered at the PCF centralized logging, that's of what we're limited to. If it's something different, we have a bunch of different integrations for Splunk, which could be deployed individually, for example, at app level or different layers. But from overall PCF platform, because we rely on that centralized logging component, we are limited to that.
Just so you know, we're writing the use cases with Splunk for the connector for Kubernetes.
So there's also a piece to ITSI that's on the roadmap that's more developing ITSI as a CI/CD platform. So there's going to be a little bit of that.
So I'm very sorry about taking so much time. I guess the takeaway or one sentence summary of everything that everything that you talked about, from ingestion to apples dashboards to an ITSI model, presents how the health and performance of that system. So Concourse might be a working component to do the same thing for it because it represents CI/CD pipeline for PCF.
If you had a module for ITSI for PKS, would that be good or bad?
Yeah. So after this, I was going to talk if I can
Okay.
partner up development.
Content pack development is me, so I will start working on the PKS one because it's already come up 3 times. So
Yeah.
I was just needing a little more. It's always good to get validation in life, right? And, yes, sir.
So with ITSI and PCF, can actually triage what application problems are caused by which underlying issues. For example, like if a Gator cell has issues or if my routing tree has issues, can I then see what apps are affected by that?
You can see what foundation is. If we want to start taking, this is a discussion I want to have. So I think let me get your name because I want to have a call with you because I broke them out as foundation. So the next thing is, okay, there's entities can be filtered anywhere and any time. I chose to do it by foundation. If I did it by app, where and when would that be more beneficial was the question I couldn't answer.
I'm the former product manager for Gator.
Oh.
I used to work for Pivotal. I'm now working for Splunk.
Okay.
So I'd be very happy to collaborate with you.
Then we'll talk. Yeah. Where are you based?
Josh.
I'm in Colorado.
Perfect.
They have a health watch dashboard.
Yeah.
To finally
We
meet
don't
you,
want
man.
to do the effort to, we get the metrics in Splunk, but there's no cool dashboard for us to give a high-level overview as to how the platform is doing. Is any of the services down?
Yep.
So is there anything that comes pre-built? There's an application that you can get that gives us those dashboards?
I wrote one last year, but like I said, it needs updating. The demand I have is more, at least speaking to customers so far, is
How's it going now?
I don't want an app. I want real-time monitoring.
With the nozzle.
So
Real-time monitoring, the question that we pose to PCF also, they are sending more than 100 plus metrics at current point of time for a platform. And then which of those are critical? Is there a certain threshold we can use for any of them that comes with best practice?
well, in the content pack, those thresholds are out of the box. Now they're mostly going to be statistical analysis because I set them all to the adaptive thresholding because this is a demo environment. I mean, it's a partner environment that just is flat. I get no heartbeat, nothing. Dang thing's dead. Oh, it's not dead. It's just constantly basically at peak load. So I got nothing to truly have a baseline on. So the real thresholding is going to come from feedback. It has to. Like that threshold sucks. I want you to change. I changed it to this. I'm seeing better results. Fine, I'll change it.